And hello to the Juice Guru Academy. If you're watching live or if you're on the replay, we've got a great event here with Ken Babal and Mushrooms for Health and Longevity. He's coming to you from Los Angeles, California, and my area, my neck of the woods. Where in LA are you? Are you hanging out here, Ken?
Atwater Village, Los Feliz area.
Oh, okay. And I'm over here by the beach in Redondo.
All right, you're lucky.
Well, it's been pretty hot here, even still. I bet it's been hot over there, too.
It certainly has. We have a brief respite today.
Right? Okay. Now what I'm doing is I'm going to put this out on Facebook. And join us live. Okay. Okay, that stream is going out live on Facebook. We don't want our friends to miss this. And I unplugged the phone, so no office distractions. Oh, and hello to Facebook community and Juice Guru community out there and everybody hanging out. And as always, we're going to be doing an amazing interview with another fantastic author. So much to share on the topic of mushrooms for health and longevity. I'm such a fan of mushrooms. I haven't done a show on this, and I'm really excited. We're going to be airing this on Juice Guru Radio. But for you in the Juice Guru community, you get backstage and you get to ask questions. If you're watching on Facebook, go ahead and type them in below, and at the end of the interview, I'll see if any come in. And if you're hanging out backstage, we know some of the community are with us, you can type in your questions on the chat. Or, as always, if you're backstage as part of the Academy or Juice Guru Rewind, which is going to be the new name of the Academy, more on that soon. If you're part of the Juice Guru Rewind or the Academy, you can type in your questions, or you can come on video if you raise your hand, and I can make you a panelist, and you can join us face-to-face, which is always fun. Ken, hi. Thank you for being here.
Hello, my pleasure.
So we're going to do the official part of introducing you and getting that all done. And we do this because it's going to go out onto the radio and iHeartRadio. So we'll do that part and the formalities, and then we'll start the interview beginning now. This episode of Juice Guru Radio is brought to you by TriBest, making healthy living easy. Well, hello, my name's Steve Prusak, and welcome to an edition of Juice Guru Radio. On today's show, we've got Ken Babal, author of his latest book is Mushrooms for Health and Longevity. We're going to hear all about how mushrooms can help us in so many different areas on this episode. So go get some juice, some water, tea. We'll be back right after this with Ken Babal. Well, hello, welcome back to Juice Guru Radio. I'm your host, Steve Prusak, and we've got Ken Babal. His new book is Mushrooms for Health and Longevity. He's a clinical nutritionist, author, and consultant to the natural food and supplement industry. He's written over 500 articles that have appeared in many popular and professional publications worldwide. We'll hear all about him. His website is nutritionmusician.com. We'll have a link to that under the notes at juicegururadio.com and under the Academy notes as well. Let's welcome to the show right now, Ken Babal.
Hi, Steve. Good to be with you.
Oh, well, Ken, thank you for being here. We've been wanting to have you on the show for a while, and I'm glad that we were able to make it happen. And I'm really excited about your new book. We recently moved out here, and I had a copy in my hands, but I was going through my boxes. I couldn't pull it up, but it's a fantastic, beautiful book, well illustrated with pictures and really how to get into mushrooms. But let's take us back personally. How did you get involved with writing about mushrooms, researching mushrooms, and we'll start there.
Well, I started off as a nutritionist, but I became interested in mushrooms because they are so unique. You think about it, they're not a vitamin, they're not an herb. They fall into this third kingdom, the fungal kingdom, which might turn some people off. But after all, penicillin is a mold. And for thousands of years, mushrooms have been revered to maintain and preserve health and longevity, and even as natural medicines. And so, as I say, they are so unique, and their properties are different from vitamin supplements, herbal supplements.
So did you, when you became interested in them and saw that they were special, obviously, did you start incorporating them into your own life? Was there any changes when you started consuming more mushrooms?
Absolutely. And, with natural products, it's not always something that is so overwhelming. But if you are in tune with the way you feel, yes, you definitely can notice their benefits, particularly if you use them routinely. And, these are part of herbology, but they're not necessarily medicinal. They are more of in a superfood category, which means you can and you should use them routinely for good health.
Well, we see a lot of them in the health food store, and we can, eat them as part of our diet. What are some of the best ways to consume mushrooms? And I know there are a lot of varieties, and we'd like to talk about some of the top mushrooms. If you can share maybe the top 5 mushrooms that you think are of most benefit.
Sure, you can have mushrooms in your diet. They are very nutritious, a good source of protein, certain vitamins and minerals, and also vitamin D. Mushrooms are the only vegan source of vitamin D other than sunlight. It has a type of vitamin D called ergosterol, and just like beta carotene in fruits and vegetables, which is converted into vitamin A, the ergosterol, the vitamin D in the mushrooms, is converted into active vitamin D. But beyond that, they have many medicinal properties, if you will. If you're looking for, not everybody likes to eat mushrooms, but also if you're looking for a more potent effect, you might consider mushroom supplements, in particular extracts.
There's a lot of brands out there. How do we distinguish? I was tried a few. I was using one in my smoothies. Another one was a blend where I was spraying it, and I really felt a difference. Like if I felt a cold coming on and started using the spray, it would just wipe it right out, and I was pretty amazed by that.
Yeah, mushrooms actually are probably the best thing, drug or natural product, for enhancing cellular immunity. And I like, people to be knowledgeable about the various types of products you can find. You can find mushrooms as dried powdered mushrooms, or you can find supplements that are extracts. And historically, the hot water extracts are what are used, and particularly the mushroom fruiting body, the cap, if you will. You might find some supplements are using the mycelia, which is kind of like the root-like structure of mushrooms. Technically, that's not a mushroom. In fact, FDA won't let you call mycelia a mushroom. Only the mushroom cap can be called a mushroom. And the mushroom cap has more of the medicinal benefits. The mycelia is most often cultivated on rice, and it's hard to separate the mycelia from the growth medium in the rice. So a lot of it turns out to be starch. So the best way to go would be to go for the hot water extracts of the mushroom cap, the fruiting body.
So you're making them into teas, Mace? Is that what we're doing under that process? I've never tried that.
Well, the mushroom extracts that I'm talking about are dry, solid extracts. Just as if you were to make a cup of tea, from your herbs, in this case, you would evaporate off all the water, and that solid material left behind is dried, and that's what you put into a tablet or a capsule.
Let's get out our notepads and paper. We're going to hear about the top 5 mushrooms and their benefits. We're with Ken Babal here on Juice Guru Radio. His latest book, Mushrooms for Health and Longevity, available at bookstores worldwide and on Amazon, of course. Right, Ken? The usual culprits to get that, like I like to say. And that's for Book Publishing Company. They put that out, our friends over at Book Publishing Company. So we recommend you check that out. So let's talk about that. So if everyone's got their pen and paper handy, let's talk, Ken, now about the top mushrooms and their benefits.
The one common property, I should say, of all of these mushrooms, whether it's maitake, shiitake, reishi, cordyceps, etc. The one outstanding common property is their immune enhancing property. And as I say, that's probably better than any drug or natural product. In fact, people don't realize, but the all-time best-selling anti-cancer drug is a mushroom extract called PSK. In Japan, it is usually injected, but you have actually a better choice. It's available, on shelves in health food stores, and that would be the maitake mushroom. In particular, most of the anti-cancer research with maitake has used an extract. It's a protein-bound beta-glucan called D-fraction. And what it does is it stimulates cellular immunity. It's the most important part of immunity, talking about your white blood cells. And you can actually find receptors on your white blood cells for these beta-glucans that you find in maitake. So for immune-enhancing anti-tumor properties, maitake is outstanding, particularly the extracts that are called D-fraction. But in general, maitake, I would say, would be conditions of excess, whether it's excess body weight, excess blood sugar, excess cholesterol, triglycerides. It has an outstanding property of helping to restore altered body chemistry back to normal, which also happens to be the definition of an adaptogen. I'm sure your viewers are familiar with adaptogenic herbs, for example. So maitake, if you look at it historically, in ancient Japan, you could exchange maitake for equal weight in silver. It was that valuable. Many of these mushrooms, only the royal families or the emperors were allowed to have them. So maitake is an excellent choice, and we could talk about some of the other ones. For example,
and again, these are going to be the same kind of process. So if we're in the store, all right, I want to get some maitake. Is there one that you recommend over the other?
Well, if you're looking for that immune-enhancing property, I would go with an extract, particularly D-fraction, which is a concentration of the immune-activating component of the mushroom, which is a beta-glucan, a type of carbohydrate. That would be the very best choice for anything from colds, the common cold, to the anti-tumor properties, that a lot of hospitals are incorporating into their programs now.
When a lot of the brands out there will combine extracts from a whole bunch of different mushrooms into their product, into their spray, into whatever their liquid, do you think that's a good idea, or are we better off taking these in isolation?
Well, a mushroom combination is great. And, once you learn about all of these properties of these unique mushrooms, it might be hard to choose which one. They all sound so wonderful. You can experiment with one at a time, or just jump right in and get a mushroom combination. But we can talk about some of the individual properties as well that might steer a person to one or the other.
Okay, yeah, let's go on. So we've got maitake and with D-fraction.
Yeah, I might mention there's another type of maitake extract. This one in the clinical studies is referred to S-X fraction, and that isolates the insulin-enhancing properties of the mushroom, helping to bring down high glucose and insulin levels. So those are two maitake extracts. We might also talk about reishi. Reishi mushroom is, in Chinese medicine, they call it a Shen tonic. A Shen tonic is something that makes you more peaceful. It changes how you perceive life. And in Asia, it is the #1 longevity herb, if you will.
Wow, Rishi, I didn't know it had those other spiritual components that can really help to center you and help with the meditative practice, things like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, and of course it has those immune enhancing properties as well. Um, reishi is very tough and woody, so you can't eat it. So in this case, it would have to be, processed either as a powdered mushroom supplement or better yet, an extract. Now, in some cases, you might find a water and alcohol extract, which is good in the case of reishi because some of the active constituents are fat soluble and they're alcohol extractable, particularly the anti-allergenic benefits of reishi.
Now, are we going to want to get these organic? Does it make a difference with mushrooms? Are they grown with pesticides, fungicides, and things like that, or what would you recommend with that?
Yeah, that's always a plus. And I like to remind people that in the supplement industry, we have what are called good manufacturing practices, GMPs. And so something that's very similar to what the food industry and the pharmaceutical industries have to follow about quality standards and really knowing your material, because it is against the law to put out a contaminated product. So they are required to do the testing for heavy metals, to ID the material, for active constituents. So all of the materials coming into this country must meet, those GMP standards.
Right, a lot of them are imported, isn't that right?
That's right. In the case of mushrooms, China in particular, because they're less expensive.
Well, getting us back on track, so we're talking about some of the top mushrooms and their benefits. We talked about maitake, reishi. There are a few. Let's talk about three more that might be in your wheelhouse.
Well, I think it's very exciting, the research that's going on with lion's mane mushroom. Lion's mane it's one of the few sources of a nerve growth factor. Nerve growth factor is responsible for the maintenance, survival, and regeneration of nerve cells during adult life. And as a matter of fact, in the 1980s, it won the Nobel Prize as the scientists that discovered nerve growth factor. Now, you can't administer it as a drug because it won't cross the blood-brain barrier. So the attention is turned to finding substances that can enhance nerve growth factor. And that's what lion's mane mushroom is all about. Particularly the one that's used in studies now involving Alzheimer's disease and types of dementia is an extract. It's called amiloban. And that is turning out to be as or more effective as the Alzheimer's disease drugs, at least in animal studies and in rat studies. But even in nursing homes, we find giving the patients the lion's mane mushroom, these patients, many of whom have dementia, are better able to take care of themselves. They're better able to feed themselves, bathe themselves and whatnot. So lion's mane, yeah, it's wild. I mean, another unique thing about mushrooms is, unlike plants, they don't have chlorophyll. So they don't get food from the sun. They extract their energy from dead and decaying matter in the forest. And mushrooms sort of spring up overnight. So they are said to be governed by lunar energy, which fosters imagination and intuition. And you might even be familiar with some of the psychedelic mushrooms, the 1960s. But lion's mane, with that sort of a association, it's not hard to understand that a mushroom like lion's mane would be good for the brain and the nerves and so on.
Is this similar to root vegetables that, right? It's the same thing with a root vegetable, right? They're not getting the chlorophyll so much, but they're extracting nutrients from the soil. This is a different process altogether, though. Is that what you're saying?
It is, yeah. With plants, they are dependent on energy from the sun. Not so with the mushrooms. Mushrooms are, their DNA more resembles humans than it does plants. We share about 30% of our DNA with mushrooms. And to give you an example, they mimic human respiration. Just like we take in oxygen and give off carbon dioxide, they do the same thing. With plants, it's just the opposite.
Wow, they really are a gift. I mean, all the fruits and vegetables are, but there really is something special and magical. I mean, I know in the 60s they called them magic mushrooms, isn't that right?
That's right.
But there really is something magical about them, isn't there?
I think so, yeah. And that's why, whether you take a vitamin supplement or you take herbs, I think everyone should, include some sort of a mushroom supplement for these wonderful properties.
Now, did we hit the top 5 there? We had maitake, reishi, lion's mane. Was there 2 that I missed?
Well, we could talk about cordyceps, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Cordyceps is in nature, it grows on the head of a caterpillar. It's called caterpillar fungus. Nowadays, virtually all cordyceps is produced in a lab, cultivated in a lab. But cordyceps is it's an adrenal tonic, an athletic tonic, a sexual tonic. One of the outstanding things about cordyceps, if you look in more recent times, cordyceps was used by Chinese female athletes in the 1990s in World Games, where they swept the games for track and field, shattering all these records. And they asked them, what is your secret? And they said, well, our training program and the use of cordyceps. So it's a wonderful athletic tonic, and also a lung tonic.
And so, again, personally, do you combine them, or how are you taking them in? Trying out this and seeing. We like to see what kind of results we get. The reason I ask is because I usually do combine them in a supplement, and I'm not sure. I'd like to really pinpoint what exactly I'm getting out of it.
Yeah. Well, as I say, the one common property, of course, is the immune-enhancing potential, but they do have some unique properties. In the book, I have a chart where you can compare, anti-inflammatory properties, athletic supplement, sexual tonic, and see which mushroom excels in any given area.
Yeah, the book is beautiful. Have you got a copy there, Ken? Can you hold the book up for our viewers? It's, again, the name of the book is Mushrooms for Health and Longevity. And if you're listening to the show on the radio, you're not going to see it. But if you're watching behind the scenes here from the Juice Guru Academy, there it is. It's just a beautiful book, full color, right? Full color imagery in there. Now, Ken, was there a 5th one, or did we hit the 5 there?
Well, let's see. We talked about maitake.
I don't know that you were mentioning the psychedelic mushrooms as one of your top 5 or not.
Well, no, I can't say that. But probably one of the most well-known exotic mushrooms, of course, is shiitake, and that is a gourmet type of mushroom. It's absolutely delicious to prepare. And in Japan, which there are certain shiitake extracts that have pharmaceutical approval, for various ailments. So shiitake is another great one. and it's a very tasty one, as a matter of fact, too. All you have to do is briefly saute it in some olive oil, a little bit of lemon juice and salt if you like, and it's absolutely delicious.
How about foraging? Sometimes when we're out on a hike, we might see some mushrooms. Any tips for foraging? I wouldn't want to end up with poisonous mushrooms or any of our friends watching, but do you touch on that at all?
Well, the only advice I can give is if you're going to go mushroom hunting, take along a very knowledgeable person with you, if not an expert, so it can, direct you to, the edible ones. It's true. Yes, some mushrooms are poisonous.
I was seeing, actually, if you're in the community, you want to type some questions here. We're going to take a few questions here from our audience with Ken Babal. Ken, you got time for a couple more questions here from the community?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. So, and also if you're backstage in Juice Guru Academy, I can bring you on video if you like. And usually our friends backstage don't like to come on video, but I always welcome them to if they like. And we love to see your face. Or you can keep your camera off and even ask the question as an audio. If you're back here, we can just bring you on as a panelist and we won't turn on the camera. Or last choice is to type it in. And of course, we love to hear from you. Here's a question coming in from the community. Michelle was asking here, what mushroom is effective for chronic pain, nerve pain, muscle pain? She was asking that. Anything come to mind for that, Ken?
I haven't seen any clinical studies in particular on pain, though I would say reishi would be a good choice because it does have anti-inflammatory compounds that have actually been compared to prednisone, an anti-inflammatory drug with very nasty side effects. Reishi is completely safe. But for this property, you would want to get an extract, a hot water and alcohol extract to get the most of those anti-inflammatory compounds.
Got that, Michelle. Thanks for writing in. Anyone else in the academy here? I think Diane had a question here. Do you recommend fresh or supplements?
Well, fresh supplements are great. I think everybody should have mushrooms in their diet. But as I say, not everybody likes mushrooms. And some people may be looking for a more concentrated effect. And that would be the mushroom extracts.
Got it. Got it, Diane. Thank you for typing in. And finally, with so many mushroom supplements on the market, how do they differ? How do we choose? How do we know? I mean, you talked a little about the testing, and I know in your website you've got a link to some supplements too that we can pick up too. And we're going to have a link to that at Juice Guru Radio, and his website again is Ken Babal's nutritionmusician.com. Again, it's www.nutritionmusician.com. I love that name. And yeah, Diane said, because she asked where she can get them. How do they differ? How do these supplements differ, Ken?
Well, as I say, I would suggest you go with a supplement. And again, we're talking about tablets and capsules here, mushroom supplements. Go with a hot water extract. As I say, historically, that is the best method for extracting all the beneficial properties. In particular, the mushroom, not so much the mycelia, the root structure, but the mushroom itself, that extract. The thing about the mycelia, it's hard to separate it from the growth medium, which is often rice. And so they tend to have a higher starch content. So the hot water mushroom extracts, in my view, would be the very best.
He's Ken Babal. Ken, in closing, anything that we didn't touch on or you wanted to share, any advice for those that want to start taking more mushrooms and where we can start? Anything that you can say in closing to share with our audience?
Well, we can sum up the properties of mushrooms as being antibacterial, antiviral, anti-inflammatory, immune enhancing, all these wonderful properties, particularly with continued usage. You're going to derive all those wonderful benefits. Mushroom combinations would be fine if you want some of the unique properties of each in one product, or you can experiment and go work with individual mushrooms. I got to say, my two favorite mushrooms are reishi and cordyceps.
He's Ken Babal again, sharing the wisdom. What better way to supplement your juicing lifestyle, getting those green juices in your body, and some mushrooms, a real gift from the gods. Ken, thank you for spreading the message, all the amazing work you're doing to get this out. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure, Steve.
Thank you again. And I'm Steve Prusak, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for being here. Diane said, thanks so much. Please post the links to him. Yes, I will, Diane. We have a few more of you in the Academy. Any other last questions before I close out and let Ken get back to his life here in LA? Just checking Facebook to see if anything else came in, but I think we're good. Well, thank you, Facebook. Thank you, friends in the Academy. And thank you, Ken Babal. Thank you for being here. We'd love to have you back on the next book, so keep me informed.
Will do, Steve.
Thank you. Much blessings. And everybody else out there, thank you. I'll see you next time. We've got more events this week. Another interview coming up on Thursday. Busy week in the Academy. Thank you for being here. I'm Steve Prusak. We'll see you next time.